Music to my ears, January 18th. Be there or be square. You have to say action.
Action.
We're here with Sew Loka at the Sew Loka studio. This
Right
is my
here.
bestie, Claudia, aka Sew Loka in Barrio Logan.
Woo!
Yay!
Hey,
Hey,
the audience!
I know
The
audience.
When I go like this, you guys clap.
You just had an art show yesterday.
We did, yeah.
Art, music to my ears.
Yes.
Art to my ears. That too, right?
Art to your ears. It could be that too.
Right?
Yeah, yeah. Music to my ears.
And what inspired you for that?
So I feel like obviously in our studio we are always playing music, and I feel like music is like a huge, like highway for like inspiration, all that kind of stuff. I feel like music is like the soundtrack to our lives. Sometimes when we're sad, we listen to specific kind of music. Sometimes when we're happy, we listen to other kind of music. And so music is what sets the tone for how we want to feel. So I feel like it was a good way of like creating art pieces that are dedicated to music that inspires arts.
Yeah, and then you did a sweater like for Calle 3 Residente.
Yeah, I did.
And like,
yeah.
why Residente? Why Calle 13 for you? Like, what made you want to do something for him
So
or inspired by him?
I usually don't get political or anything like that, but I do feel
Right.
that like right now, obviously, with like having to go into like this new climate of like what's happening in politics, it's like a really good time to be really proud of like who you are, where you come from, especially when there's like a lot of that negative rhetoric of like who we are as people, where it's like we're murderers, we're rapists, all that kind of stuff. I feel like Residente in like his lyrics, he really talks about like basically having like that proudness of like being brown, and like having that kind of like representation of like why you should be proud of like who you are,
And like not hiding your culture and like hiding behind that, like being proud of all of that.
And I feel like we should be proud. We're one of the most hardworking people that like is in this country, and so really like wanting to like recognize something like that, and like having like that. I feel like every time I put like one of his songs on, I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm so proud to be Mexican, even though he's Puerto Rican. But it's like I'm so proud to be Mexican and to have those roots where it's like I come from two immigrant parents.
Right? Same.
Yeah.
Immigrant parents, first, generation Mexican Americans,
Exactly.
and having that instilled in you to like work hard to get the American dream.
Exactly.
Want to use,
Yeah.
but and he does empower a lot of people, just like a lot of other Latinos. But this one specifically for you was,
Yeah.
this is the guy that I want to like dedicate this sweater to.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I dedicated to him, because I'm not. You've known me for a really long time, more than half of my life. I've never been a big fan of like hip hop. Hip hop doesn't have a lot of influence in like the things that I make, And so I feel like with him, especially like being like a Spanish speaking artist, it's even like heavier for me, because I'm like, whoa, like I get to understand that because it's my first language, and like being that like that was my first language, and being able to be like so impactful in like the words that we use, like it was like a no-brainer for me to like use him as an inspiration for the hoodie.
Yeah, that was like really good, because like the first time I ever seen him be like any type of political was like this Guadalajara song where like he's talking about the people coming to his border and creating like the Virgen de Guadalupe.
Exactly.
And he did like a homage to like Mexico.
Yeah.
And like not his people. So it was like really good. And then also you did Kitty.
I did do Kitty. Yeah.
And Kitty was something that we listened to when we were younger.
Loud. So Kitty's like a really cool band, because I feel like their first album, Spit, it's actually their 25-year anniversary. So it was really cool I didn't even know that until like I freaking started like really diving into their page again, because I'm like, I wanted some inspiration to like really like create like something that was gonna truly like show them as like a band, and like not just them as a band, but it's like who I was around that time frame. And I feel like you probably know this, but I feel like there was so much trauma and like anger and like so much happening to me during that time, that like really being able to like capture that time frame of like who I was as like a young teen and like how angsty and like upset I was with like the world, I feel like I do like working in that space of like trying to figure out like who I could have been and like trying to like almost heal that part of me that like still has a lot of like anger and resentment. And so I feel like I really took the kitty jacket in like wanting to like heal that part of like me, but also like just kind of like going down that like memory lane of
like that
you know
nostalgia of
that
like
nostalgic,
everything.
yeah, of like being in like high school and like listening to that and like who were you dating at the time, like who was commenting on like this band, how did you find the band, and so it was really cool to
Because all that was like paper. It was all flyers. It was like no MySpace, no
yeah,
Facebook, no Friendster,
no Spotify,
no Spotify.
there wasn't Pandora,
There was no
so
YouTube.
exactly, you had to go into a record store and like you were lucky enough if they let you actually like listen to the CD,
And Ritmo
so
Latino, I think, was the only one doing that, and they didn't have that type
yeah,
of
no, no,
music.
no, they didn't have that kind of
You
type of
know,
music,
you had
so
to go to like
yeah,
a thrift shop. You're lucky if like Warehouse Music even had something like that sometimes,
yeah,
because they were
or
trying
Tower
to like Tower
Records.
Records, and they were following kind of the Ritmo Latino, like let's listen to the CD before we buy it type stuff.
So true. Yeah,
90s guys, 90s.
exactly. You're not missing out on anything. No, that was like that
The
was the best.
struggle, but that was like the best part because like you got to
Yeah,
find out like different music and who you were into and what you wanted to be
yeah,
like, and you were able to find yourself without having to look at your phone and be like, oh, they're living like the best life. It's like you were living your life, you weren't
Ex-
looking at people living their life.
exactly,
So it's like
exactly,
completely different. And it was
exactly.
funny because like when I saw you do that jacket for Kitty, I went into the garage, looking for old clothes. So, I did find like old Junko jeans, big old
Yeah,
jeans that we used to wear,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I got the off brand because, I shopped at Factory to Use. I was broke
yeah,
as a kid. Like, like let's
yeah,
not play it.
yeah,
So the big shoes, the big old DC shoes that, you would find at the thrift shop. And luckily, if Payless had them.
yeah.
Like I looked at myself in
Airwalks.
the mirror because I wanted, like, oh, maybe I could do the little punk thing, come back, and I was like looking at myself. I was like, dude, I'm like 40. What the fuck am I doing? You know?
Well, I feel like that was like a whole thing, right? Where it's like, really generalizing yourself, where it's like, what is like your style? And I feel like what I really like about like clothes and like all that kind of stuff is that like you don't have to make it to where you're getting older and you're like, well, I'm this age, I should dress for my age.
Mm-hmm.
I do get a lot of people that think I'm younger because I'm not dressing like I'm 40,
Right.
so then I'm like, okay, but it is one of those things where it's like I feel like you shouldn't put yourself in that box of like I'm this age now, so it's like I shouldn't be doing these kind of things, and it's like having that youthful spirit to like want to do the things that you want to do because that's what you want to do, as opposed to like someone telling us that we can't do these things anymore because we're older.
Right.
So yeah, but the kitty jacket was one of those things where it took me some time to kind of like create like a whole idea for it, without it looking too much like the San Fernando jacket that I made for the airport. And
Right.
so, because I really wanted to go into that kind of realm of like just making it out of like old like black jeans. And then I was like, well, it's kind of looking like a lot like the San Fernando jacket, and what's going to set it apart. And so I kind of was like, well, like, what are other elements to like you know to that genre of music, and so I wanted to incorporate all those different elements into it. And it took some time, but I finally got into like that space of like I feel good about this, and like we could build off of it. So
Okay, like when I saw the jacket and then like seeing it up close and like feeling up on it and seeing like the studs and then feeling the
yeah,
straps and like the buttons and all that stuff, it kind
yeah,
of reminded me of like your first, like when you were dropping like your tote bags,
yeah,
when you weren't So Loka, you were just CYR.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It was your very first brand and you were selling it, at our first job. You were selling it at
yeah,
pizza, you were
yeah,
selling it to us. And you were like, it reminded me of that,
that's cool,
like of all your bags that you used to do with the print, with like
yeah,
it was like a spray can and like stencils and then like putting
yeah,
whatever you wanted on those tote bags. Like that's
yeah,
exactly what it reminded me of because it
I
was like
love that.
all that stuff that you used to do on there.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, we want to have this art show. and then like what happens in between all of it to make it happen, you know? And I think that you just see it come together. You're not seeing like all the steps of like us having to go and film these videos, you know? And I remember when we went to go film the Residente and the Kitty video, we kind of went into like this, like almost like an alley in like this industrial park where
Huh.
they store all the cars for the dealerships, and we're like there, and like no one's gonna bother you because it's like it's like fucking in an industrial place, so no one's gonna like mess around with you. But we were just kind of being all fucking weird, and there's no music playing or anything like that, and you're just, you know, dancing and doing all that kind of stuff. And this man out of nowhere is like with this clipboard, and he's like walking around, and he's like kind of wanting to see like what we were doing because we looked suspicious. A car
Right.
just pulled up, we got out, we're fucking like looking
Filming.
weird and filming, and he was just kind of like what the hell. And so you know, things like that where it's like there's so much that goes into it, from creating the jackets to promoting it to meeting with people to making sure that all the artists are dropping off their work, that we get like their tag submissions, because it's like this is like a an art show. We want for the artists to sell their work, and they do put in a lot of time and energy, just how much we do. And so we really want it to be a good show for them because they're putting in a lot of time and energy and effort into creating new pieces. And so it's almost like one of those things where it's like we want to always overdo it because it's important for them to also understand that like their time and energy and everything is important to
And
us,
it's
and
appreciated,
it's
because they
appreciated.
had a lot of good artwork in there. Like I did take a
Exactly.
bunch of pictures. I'll be
Yeah.
posting that in other media, but
Yeah.
there's like a lot of good pictures and a lot of good stuff. Like there's this one badass guitar that they had like burned Frida Kahlo onto it, and I was just like, dude,
Exactly.
put some strings on that and like start. It'd
Yeah.
be a badass guitar,
That's what I'm
just to even
saying.
use it, But the idea of like putting like something like that and taking the time to do it, but then like on top
Exactly.
of like all your jackets, like how long did it take you to do those jackets?
I think it took me like probably like a week to get both of them done, you
Damn, that's
know.
really fast.
Yeah. And so just I basically created like the sketches first just so I could have like some kind of solid idea of like what I was going to go into. And then after that I was like, all right, I have an idea, like now I could kind of go into it and like execute it and stuff. But I feel like because it is a lot of like piecing together things, it takes a little bit longer because everything's like
Yeah.
pieces, small pieces, and you know, and once you're starting to see it come together, you're like, "Ooh, if I add this, I know it's going to take longer, but it's going to look better." And so, um, it's also understanding too that it's like you don't want to spend too much time on it,
Yeah.
where then all of a sudden you're like, "How much is this jacket going to be?"
Yeah.
And like, you know, we want to be mindful of like wanting it to be like accessible for everyone, but it's like also as like a textile artist, like we also want to be able to like pay our bills and take care of our bare necessities, you know, of like being able to pay for the studio, things like that. And so it's important for us to like make a livable wage to be able to take care of
Right,
things
because
like
it's art,
that.
because it's one of one. It's not just clothing, like it's the art, the thing that you put into it. Because like
Yeah.
even like your Calle 13 sweater, like it's badass. Like there's pieces of like jersey and sweater, and then there's
Yeah.
like leather on top of like a textile fabric, and then you have like this other one like a bandera, like Puerto
Yeah.
Rico, and then you also have like hand stitching into it.
Yeah.
And it's like the people don't see these type of details that like you're putting into this,
Yeah.
and it's like it's a really nice sweat, and it's
Yeah.
warm.
It's warm. It's warm. And for me, I was like,
But
when I was like doing that one, I was like, okay, I know this is gonna take a little longer, but it's gonna look a million times better. And I was like, I I do like a lot of embroidery, like teaching people how to embroider, and I was like, I am pretty quick with it, and I could like really like do it fast because it's like I got the rhythm down and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, if I do this, like, and I put the Sew Loka initials on there, I'm like with embroidery thread, it's just gonna take it to the next level. And like sometimes it's doing those little things that like it just makes it better. And
and
so
and it made
it's
it
worth
pop
it.
because it didn't
Yeah.
take away from the actual textile fabric. It looks like it should be in that fabric.
Exactly. So it makes it fun, you know, where you're like, wow, and every time you look at it, you could be like, I didn't know this was there, or I didn't, so
Like your jacket, the jean jacket. Like
exactly.
I at first didn't notice that you had SL in like
Yeah.
jean.
Yeah.
So it was like after like looking at it again, I was like, what? Like I didn't see like little details. And I was looking like that sweater. I was like, you have R's all over the place.
Yeah.
And then
There's
me,
7 R's. Okay. So he has a song, it's called 313, and it is a song about his friend Valentina that committed suicide. She jumped off a cliff. And so we experienced that this past year, with like Jeff. And so it's devastating to fucking have to go through something like that. And so she was like a very talented violin player. And he was the last message that he got from her was at 3:13. And so he was out somewhere, and all of a sudden like someone starts playing the piano like all like crazy like talented, and he looks at his phone and it was like 313, and he was
oh
like,
man,
whoa. And so 313, if you add up 3 and 3, it's 6, and 1 is 7. So I added 7 resident R's all over like the hoodie to basically like so that's where I was like, whoa, like that's super impactful that he decided to do like a song dedicated to like his friend with that like timestamp, and so I was just like, whoa, like crazy. And so I decided to use the 313 as like a symbol of like one of his songs. And then did the 7 R's to like the culmination of what 313 is, it's the number
mm-hmm.
7. And so um yeah, it was like it was really important for me to like have that like culmination of like the numbers, the colors, like I just recently like read one of his interviews that he did with like a newspaper, and he talked about that, and I was like, whoa. And he wore a really cool like hoodie in that picture, and I was like, wow, he like really takes like these these risks with like clothes. And I was like, that's cool, like I want to be able to like create something where it also feels like something that he would wear. And so in that way I was like, I think he would wear something like this, and really wanting to like just kind of step into that
Right.
space.
So Residente, if you're watching this, her sweater.
Exactly. Exactly. Call me.
For real.
You could be related to my man.
How?
He's also Puerto Rican. But yeah, but he, just really excited about the show because it's like, there is a lot of work that goes into
Yeah,
it,
exactly.
and
Because you only had like a few weeks to prepare for something like
we
this.
only had a few weeks. We usually do at least a couple of months to prepare for something like this, just because there's a lot of marketing that goes involved, that we do, like press releases, just a lot of work that goes into it. And so we feel like 3 weeks isn't enough time to really like pull something together where it's like we're gonna feel satisfied, um but it was a really good turnout,
Yeah, it was. There's a
and
lot of people there. I mean, you could
yeah,
still barely squeeze in through.
exactly, which is really nice. And we're really fortunate that like people understand our vision, follow the
Support it,
vision,
yeah.
support it, because it's awesome.
And it was for a good cause because like anything that is sold at that art show,
Exactly.
they get a percentage of like the sales,
Exactly.
right? And
Yeah.
it's the what?
It's a Villa Música, so it's a nonprofit organization that they offer like music lessons to different people in like the community. They teach them at like libraries and stuff, and it's all free. And so, in order for them to continue to do that kind of work, like people do donations, like the wine sales. If you went and bought something from like their table, like something to drink, or you made like a donation, it goes directly into like keep funding those projects, which is really good because I feel like art, music, all that kind of stuff, it's not accessible in our communities, right? Like
Yeah, because
it's
it's
not
dying
really,
out.
and it's not really like encouraged. Like when I remember my dad was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, I want to be an artist. And he's like, no. And so I was like,
That's like the typical Latino.
okay,
Do something that's gonna make you money.
exactly. So then I decided, and I feel like events like this, like, the music to my ears, it's a great place for you to like basically like find like-minded people, right? Where it's like you like art, you like art. Like this is an event where you could go and meet people that also like the same stuff that you do, as opposed to like, hey, let's all go and get hammered. And it's
Yeah.
like, that's great, cool. Some people like that, like, but it's like it gives you a purpose to in a way of like building community. Like who are going to be your people that are going to support you in what you want to do, right? Because we've all had friends that like you've told one of your friends like your wildest fucking goal. I want to fucking build a fucking mansion on this fucking 3 acres that I'm going to buy. And they were like, hey, well, you can never do that. And you're like, what the fuck? And you're like, you almost don't want to share your goals anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like it's about being around people that you could tell them your wildest fucking dream and they would be like, dude, that's so fucking cool. Like that's so cool.
Like
Like how
going
can I
through
help you do that?
mm-hmm.
And you want to surround yourself with people like that because
Like-minded
they're
people.
also fucking they're doing shit. If people are crushing your dreams, they're not people that are gonna want to see you succeed.
Yeah, they're just gonna hold you back.
They're just gonna be the person that it's like as soon as you get more successful than them, they're gonna resent you for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like those aren't the people you want to be around. You want to be around people that are gonna also want to be doing stuff,
Who are growing with
who are
you.
growing with you. So I feel like those kind of events are really important for us because it's like it's really like getting our audience to get to know other artists that like maybe are just starting or that like have done this for a long time and like are new into like the San Diego scene or are
Or just
just
coming in and like
coming in
visiting
and
and they heard about the event.
exactly. So I feel like we
And
do it for a lot of reasons,
and then you're also, like I said, you're supporting the community because like everything that's sold in there, everything that goes there, it comes back to the community
exactly.
itself. And
Yeah.
then you said it was like Villa Music,
Villa Música. Yeah.
Villa Música. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and they have a website where they can like buy this stuff or
Exactly. So they have a website. You could obviously go and like see like what their nonprofit is about and stuff. And you could check it out. The show's gonna be up for 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys are in the San Diego area, Villa Música in
Yep.
the Sorreno Valley,
Yep.
you guys
Yeah.
should go check it out.
Yeah.
Sew Loka has stuff. Oh well, no, they took. Well, you brought your stuff
There's
back.
still some stuff there.
There's some stuff
Yeah.
there. So there's
Yeah.
still art. There's still constellations up there. So you guys should check it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Is there anything else that you want to say about the art show? Anything?
No, whatever you want. Yeah, I think I said a lot.
All right. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for taking the time for this interview. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah. And if you want to find us, sewloka.com, Instagram, Sewloka, SEWLOKA.
There you go.
Yeah.
You heard it here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, turn that shit off.